You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello everybody and welcome to Phoenix 92.5 FM. It is the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling, and the only wrestling podcast which you need to listen to, coming directly from their studios here of Phoenix 92.5 FM around the Christmas season. So thank you so much for listening to us. We hope you're, having some time off or getting ready to have some time off, because it's going to be our Christmas show next week, Martin. We're looking forward to it.
Have we decided? Are we going to do anything different?
Well, I think we have to. I think we have to pick something.
Yeah, we usually do something festive.
I think doing something.
I think we've pretty much covered all the Christmas movies that have wrestlers in them. I think we got all them.
Yeah, we got all those in a nice neat package there a year ago. So I'll have a look and see what will be more fun, because I don't want to do a WWE show because they're always terrible. But I think there might be something fun in WCW.
Oh, WCW Christmas disaster.
Yeah, I think that could be fun. Because Starrcade was around the end of the year, either in November or December, and then the wheels kind of fell off every year. So I think we'll have a look, or else I might go all the way crazy and go and see what's in TNA.
Oh, nice Christmas TNA episode.
Nice Christmas TNA episode. So I don't know. Leave it with me. I'll have a look. And sure, folks, the best way to find out what we're doing is go over to our social media. Martin is handling that now. We're also on Nerd to Know Media on on Instagram. That's the one. But our social media is Twitter and Facebook is run by Martin. So we'll be dropping updates there also. But as I said,
we'll have some variation of Santa getting power bombed or suplexed, or
the more tables,
something put through a table. Yeah,
put through a table. The more tables, the better. As I said, my name is Darragh O'Connor, but I'm not alone. You heard him there. I'm joined by the one and only Mr. 1-0, Martin Herty. How are things, Martin?
Darragh, I was fine till about 5 minutes before we started the call here. We were having a wee bit of a chat just before we start the podcast, and I was flicking through my phone and was smacked in the face by the news that Kenny Omega is out indefinitely.
Yes, and it looks like diverticulitis.
So some of them, like I say, I'm always a wee bit skeptical about what wrestling social media news sites report. Kenny Omega has posted himself just saying that I'm out indefinitely. But it doesn't sound like an injury. It sounds like an illness. And Sean Ross Sapp and a few other sites are saying that it appears to be diverticulitis.
It is shocking. I saw it before you did. For some reason, it broke on my timeline before you start talking about it. But you kind of so, folks. We talked like half an hour beforehand. We just kind of have a chat, and Martin went deadly silent, and I knew what it was. And I was like, "How did you not see this before me?" So yeah, no, it sucks though, because look, if it is diverticulitis, I didn't think it was that. I thought it was something else. If it's diverticulitis, that is less bad, but by no stretch of imagination is it something that he's just going to walk off. I was watching Brock Lesnar. Actually, something got to do with Brock Lesnar and his struggle with it, and apparently, even when he gets hit now in the stomach, it still hurts. Oh. And he was out for 2 years or something like that with it. So I mean, look. Omega's a professional wrestler. He's not a fighter. So he doesn't probably have to contend with that. But, I'm hoping he'll be back before All In. because I would like to see him go against Osprey. That would be cool.
It looks like he's like pretty much out of World's End. So World's End is in 2 weeks, so that doesn't look like it's happened. Although to be fair, at World's End he was only in a tag match with Jericho, so there's not a, there's like that's not going to be like.
It's not that bad, but it's not ideal.
Issue for people. Nobody's going to be like, oh, the Jericho Omega tag match isn't on. Oh, I want my money back. Even if he missed Revolution in March, would be a pity because that's Sting's last. But you would hope that by the time August comes around, that he'd be back on track.
Yeah.
But again, it's like you were saying, diverticulitis is one of those conditions that if you get it early, you can be fine in a couple of weeks. Or
it looks like they did catch it early, which is good.
Hopefully, or if it's really bad, like you were saying with Brock Lesnar, you can be a long time on the shelf with it.
Well, look, obviously it's literally a breaking story as we're going on air, so we'll keep an eye on it, and obviously we'll bring up the updates as they happen. One thing off the bat I want to say real quick is I've spent a lot of time actually updating the feed, and I've done a new way of updating the feed where it's actually like they're dropping as we do them, so there's not this big massive back catalogue. They are just kind of dropping as we're doing them. I mean, the way you're supposed to do it, rather than the way I do it, where I forget about it. I'm like, oh no, we have like 25 shows in this year, because like one Saturday I just sat there for 8 hours editing shows. So they're all up now, which is great. But yeah, we're actually doing them like on time now. So thank you guys for putting up with me. I'm sorry, because I was looking at the uploads, like, yeah, it looks like we don't do anything for like 2 months, and then we drop like a bank of shows. When really, if I just dropped them once a week, it'd be a lot easier.
Dara rings me and goes, Martin, we haven't done a podcast in 3 months. You need to come out now, and we're going to do 15 in a row. We're
going to bang out 15 of them. It's like, say goodbye to the wife and the kids. We're just going to block record for 15 hours.
48 hours in the recording studio. No toilet breaks. No water.
Just bring your notepad and that's it. That's all we're doing. So that actually, like, that doesn't happen, folks. I just don't edit the shows. But now I am like being more disciplined, and they're going up as well. So if this is your first time checking us out on Phoenix, thank you so much. Guess what? You don't have to deal with that. You can go and check out everything on the WrestlingRewind.com, nerdtoknowmedia.com, and the True Penny channel as well. They're all there, and they're all there for free, which is fantastic. And I will say thank you for everybody who does listen, because the listenership numbers are actually great. It's funny because I see them, and when I don't upload shows, they drop. But when I upload shows, they skyrocket again. So I think maybe that's why they're dropping. Because they're like, oh, these guys are done. It's like, no,
it is. I've noticed that when we have nothing to listen to, we get fewer listeners.
Yeah, I know, right? It's almost like that's the problem.
We got our what was it? Our Spotify Wrapped thing.
We did get our Spotify Wrapped. Yeah, we did pretty well this year.
Shows that the show's on the up.
Yeah, we didn't. So our biggest listenership is in the US and England, and in Ireland. So that's pretty good. I mean, it makes sense. We talk about professional wrestling. England, Ireland, and America makes the most sense. But we have a bunch of listeners in Germany. So
Germany's pretty big for wrestling. What about Mexico? We get any Mexican listeners?
Yeah, a few. But like, I mean, the top 4 were those countries.
My Spanish isn't great, so maybe.
And you know what, right? We're the top podcast as well for like 20 people, which is weird. So like 20 people like love our podcast so much that like we're their main podcast of the year on Spotify.
We need to find these 20 people and organise some sort of night out in Dublin.
Or Belfast, because Belfast is cheaper and better.
Well, look, I'll take whichever one involves me travelling less. Deadly.
Yeah, that's fair. And you get really good points in Belfast too. We went to that place after that gig that one time.
Yeah.
That was it. That was fun.
That play. Oh, where we went. Yeah, that was Lavery's. Lavery's is quite good. Yeah.
Yeah. And
like your Guinness. Bittles is pretty good, and there's a load of really good bars around Belfast.
Yeah, it's all in good crack, you know.
Now, it is still a European city, so there's also a load of Ponzi Archie bars charging £8 for a pint.
Yeah, but no. You go to the dive bars.
Exactly.
That's where the real fun is. And plus, Belfast has like two really good venues. Sorry, I know we're a wrestling podcast based in Dublin, but folks, if you've never been to Belfast, you should go. It's a good time. The Voodoo is fantastic, and so is the Limelight. I have a good time every time I'm in the Voodoo, which was one time, and I want to go back. So I'm going to endeavour to get a gig there next year. Very much so, just to play the Voodoo because I really like it there. All right, so guys, we have a couple of things coming up this week. Obviously, we're going to cover some news, which we've already kind of done. I do want to talk about Cousin Phil real quick because I have to.
Wouldn't be one of our podcasts if we didn't.
I know, right? He just seeps in. We're going to talk about WWA, which I don't think we've actually ever done on this podcast yet, or at least you and I haven't.
That's WWA.
Exactly, WWA. Eh? And then In Your House number 7. So, folks, we have an absolute jam-packed show this week. We are either we're not going to split this into 2 shows. We're just going to either go for the tight hour, or else we're going to go for a 90-minute show, and that's what's going to happen. And then next week, it'll be Christmas related. I just have to have a time to ruminate on which terrible festive gimmick we can go for.
We'll figure something out.
We will.
It's wrestling. There's bound to be an embarrassment of cringy riches to get through.
So, CM Punk, Cousin Phil, right? So he's doing his. So I thought you'd find this interesting this week. So he went on a little world tour, and I was in Rome for a lot of last week. So I was kind of watching. So Rome is an hour ahead of us. So it's like 6 hours ahead, ahead of any wrestling that happens in the US. But by the time you'd wake up, particularly when you're doing tours or anything like that, I would wake up around 8. So all the news would be breaking because the show would just go off the air, which is a really weird thing to actually experience. And yeah, like Punk was doing his little tour, so he went to SmackDown. So he went to Raw first, then he did SmackDown, then he went to NXT, then he went back to Raw and signed in Raw, and obviously that's where he is now. But it was interesting to kind of see what he was doing with these. He was kind of hinting that he wanted to go on NXT, or should he go on NXT? And there's a bunch of different news breaking around here that's saying he might actually end up running NXT with Shawn Michaels eventually, which I mean makes an awful lot of sense. SmackDown, that was kind of flat, but he cut a really good promo on Raw on Monday, which I want to get your opinion on, because some are saying it's literally the same thing that he did with Hangman, and it kind of is. But I mean, a lot of this kind of ties into what I said to you last time we were talking, which wasn't last week because I wasn't here, but it was about 2 weeks ago, where it's like they are going to start leaning into the reality of CM Punk. What do you think about this?
I mean, I think the NXT stuff, not him running it, him showing up and saying, "Oh, I might sign for NXT." I think that was pretty blatantly just to get more views for the pay-per-view. Like, there was no chance he was signing with NXT. Him running it down the line might have sort of more of a possibility to it. I do recall there was a lot of talk when Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor that they were talking about it would basically become CM Punk's, when he was done in ring, he would basically book and run Ring of Honor. But again, it's hard to tell what's actually being discussed and what's just sort of bouncing around the internet. In terms of the pay-per-view, the promos, man, I've been really surprised by how dull most of them have been. The Raw one that you mentioned did have a wee bit more fire to it, but it's always really bizarre for me to hear Punk, given that his whole gimmick was the voice of the voices, and his name is literally Punk. He's the rebel and the outsider and all that. It's so bizarre for me to hear him using the corporate speak. So for him to be out there talking about, am I going to be a Raw superstar or a SmackDown superstar? When his return to AEW was all about wrestling, and I came back to wrestling, and so it's always really bizarre to hear him using that kind of language. The Seth Rollins face-off was just absolutely a 100%, and I suspect deliberate rip-off of the the Hangman Page promo. Like, it was literally word for word. I'm not going to defend it against you. I'm going to defend AEW/WWE from you. Like, it was blatant. Well, the thing is that their audience is so much bigger that they can probably get away with that. I see the reaction to it has been pretty big, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it. I don't know. I'm still just not getting it.
He likes money.
Yeah, and that's
He likes money.
that's great. But I don't like.
But see,
I'm not seeing any of this money, so I don't feel any need to emotionally invest in it. I think his first match is going to be really interesting. Now, I know he
Dominic
has
Mysterio.
Well, so these are the house shows that he's doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are for local audiences or if it's just to sort of try out in the ring and maybe shake off whatever rust there is. And even when he does like properly return, you know, you could be talking about the Royal Rumble, so that's not even really a match. Like, so it could be well into next year before we see his first proper TV match. I think that's going to be really interesting. But what's your take on the whole thing?
I mean, I think it's funny because he is using the corporate speak, but I think he was doing that in AEW as well. Like, he's still like, it's really funny because I think he's doing the exact same thing he was doing in AEW, but it's a lot more kind of cynical now because you're kind of like onto him. And like, you know, he was saying, "Oh, I'm a wrestler. I'm back to wrestling." Of course, he was going to say that to AEW fans. He wasn't going to come out and say, you know, the WWE words because that wasn't it. You know, I mean, think about it, right? Like,
a sports entertainer.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely think about it. Like, and now he's playing the game. He's really like, I think Punk, he will win the Rumble, right? He will get to WrestleMania.
There's a call.
But I don't think he'll win it. I don't think he'll win at WrestleMania. And he'll lose his you-know-what, right? I think we're building up to a massive CM Punk heel turn. Like, phenomenal CM Punk heel turn. And he did it in AEW. His return to AEW after Brawl Out was him going heel. I'm watching a lot of it, and everything he was doing was building up to this. And I think that's what they're doing here as well. They're like, it's weird, Martin. I think we swap sides here. Where I'm like laying this out, and then all you have to say is, "But Punk," right? So I am aware that could be happening here as well. But I do think, considering the fact that they have all these controls in place with him, I think they're like, you know what, just do what you're doing in AEW, but cynically.
What do you think? So like that's where you think the character's going, where the storyline's going.
I do think so. Yeah.
What do you think? Because at this stage, Punk is 45 now, and towards his last couple of months in AEW,
he was getting injured all the time. Yeah.
When he wasn't out for, you know, attacking people or whatever else, he was getting injured constantly. What do you think his in-ring return is going to be like?
I mean, it depends. Like, the problem with AEW is also the good thing about AEW, where the lads go in and leave everything in ring, and they have these phenomenal matches week after week after week. The downside of that is they're the higher chance. Like, do you remember the GM mode in what's it? SmackDown vs. Raw 2007?
I'm aware of it. I didn't have it, but I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Oh man, right. So I love playing it, like particularly on the PSP. I still play on the PSP from like 2005, 2006. And you could just book the matches, and the way you'd book the matches is like you'd be like Raw, SmackDown, or ECW eventually, right? And the more extreme the match, the higher chance of it being injured. And I think like Tony Khan should sit down and play that to be like, hey man, you know, if you don't have these safe matches, they're gonna get injured. Like, it's what happens. And there was none of that control with WWE. The style, yeah, look, it's a lot less cool than AEW, and the matches are kind of boring. Like, generally, they can be really boring. But the problem is, but the upside of that is like they don't get injured nearly as much as the AEW lads as. I mean, look, Daniel Bryan is injured all the time. We're going to he is falling. He is
even
falling
by
apart.
AEW standards, he is a lunatic.
Oh no, absolutely. But
Have
I mean,
you seen his last couple of matches in the Continental Classic?
this is what I'm saying to you. Like, I mean,
It's
it's insane.
he's had that eye socket surgery, and he had Andrade whip the eye patch off him and literally start gouging at the scar. Like
I know,
he's
but
nuts.
But see, the thing about it is, in WWE, obviously that won't be a thing. So, I mean,
it's not going to be.
I mean, Punk's in like chance of injury in WWE is very low in reality. I mean, look, stuff can happen, but
Do you think he tries to pull off a buckshot?
I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he's going to do that.
Like if he goes for it and does it, like it'll be memed to death. Like CM Punk fans will love it.
Yeah.
But it's so risky because if he goes for it and messes it up, like it gets the exact opposite reaction with the exact same ferocity.
And I think what will happen is the guys who will be in there with, he won't be in there with like random jobbers. He won't be working week to week. It will be like people who are there to make him look the best they can. And I mean, look, he's been in there with some phenomenal guys in AEW, but at the same time, it wasn't to make him look better. It was to make the two of them look good. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think you're going to see an MJF dog collar match where they both kill each other and look amazing. I think it would be like, he'll be in there with Seth Rollins and the match would be great. And Seth Rollins will be carrying the majority of that match. And it'll be to make Punk look as great as he can. Seth Rollins will win. Punk will go mega heel, and then he'll set up a feud with Cody Rhodes.
I often
and that's what's going to happen.
I often, when we're on this show, use you as my kind of counterbalance. So rather than just making a sort of definitive statement on something, you know, I'll ask you, am I just being biased here, or is that a bit conspiratorial? But part of me thinks he deliberately kind of tanked his AEW contract or his AEW run because he couldn't hack the in-ring pace. Is that too cynical? Am I maybe being a wee bit over the top there?
Yeah, maybe. I think a little bit. I think you're half right and you're half wrong. I do think he deliberately tanked his AEW run when he came back. When he came back to like, and there's a great video of someone just doing all his promos. When he came back to get fired. He absolutely came back to get fired. But I don't think it's anything got to do with work rate. It's got to do with he just didn't want to be there anymore. And
it's just so prior to Brawl Out, he was being used a lot more as a singles wrestler. But when he got Collision, he was putting himself in an awful lot of
tag matches,
3-man tags and tag matches and 8-ways and 6-ways and whatever else. You know
what actually it could be as well. I think he actually enjoyed running things, which is why the NXT thing makes a lot of sense to me. I think he just enjoyed. He obviously does wrestling, right? But I don't think he wants to be a wrestler anymore. I think he just wants to run stuff.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, I mean, Collision made sense, and Collision, like when he was there, I actually really liked Collision. But I think him being involved with that kind of stuff now is what I'd see, and it's probably going to be more his speed going forward. I think we'll probably get 2 or 3 years of this CM Punk, and then he'll probably transition and join Shawn Michaels. Because look, it looks like they're having a great time there in NXT. And from all reports, the majority of the NXT roster love CM Punk. Which, I mean, all of the Collision roster love CM Punk as well. So it's like,
particularly with the NXT roster, because there'll be that age difference. Like, yes. A lot of them would have grown up watching,
and that's
Punk.
Yeah, and that's what the reports are saying as well. So I mean, if that is kind of the way, it is the vibe I'm getting. I don't think it was a deliberate thing, but I think a little bit deliberate, but the actual messing up in the ring and stuff, I don't think was him trying to be bad. It was like, look, he's a lot older and his body is a lot more broken down than he probably wanted to believe it. But it is what it is. And again, like we always say on this show, folks, no matter how good something is, no matter how well planned, no matter how great it could be,
butt punk.
So,
I think that's all the news, is it? Do you have anything?
No. That's kind of everything. I mean, like we're a couple of weeks away from the Royal Rumble, and like a couple of weeks away from the return of TNA, which I'm very excited about. Matches are really starting to be.
Couple of weeks away from World's End.
World's End,
and the end of the Continental Classic, which I don't know if you've been watching, but for me has just been the best thing in wrestling this year. Really, a lot of in-ring storytelling, a lot of like competitive sports-based storytelling, and then these brilliant. I love these promos they're doing. They're like 30 to 60 seconds, but they're like immediately after the match. They catch up with guys backstage, and it's I don't know, just as a. Do you remember when AEW first came out, and one of the things they were talking about was a kind of a more focus on the sports base aspect of wrestling?
Yes.
It's a lot like that, and it's man, I'm loving the Continental Classic.
Oh well, look, I mean, that's one thing that AEW's always been able to do is put on one hell of a tournament. But speaking of tournaments,
Here we go.
Speaking of tournaments, we have the most prestigious tournament of all time. Forget your King of the Rings, forget your Deadly Games tournament, forget your Continental Classics. We have the greatest tournament of all time, ladies and gentlemen. And where you can find it, it's on YouTube. Now, I don't think it's by them officially, but it is there. No, it's not. It's by some random guy. I do own this on DVD, full disclosure. And my copy of the DVD is signed by Jerry Lawler. So it is signed.
I don't own this on DVD, so I probably do owe some money to World Wrestling All-Stars.
So yeah, and as you said, this is from WWA Inception. So we're going all the way back.
No. The Inception.
The Inception.
They did this really weird thing the whole way through their run, because their run was only like 4 or 5 pay-per-views.
Yeah, it was very, very, very small.
And I think maybe it was because Bret Hart is their first commissioner, and Bret Hart had this awful habit of, I don't know if it's a Canadian thing, of putting the in front of stuff that doesn't need a the. So I'm here in the WCW tonight on the SummerSlam. Kept doing this. And all their pay-per-views are called, like, they're not called Inception, Revolution, Retribution, something else. They're called The Inception, The Revolution, The Retribution. And I think that was a call by Commissioner Bret Hart.
But what's interesting about this is, so this was my first ever wrestling show, WWA. It came to Dublin, right? Now, it was around this time. It wasn't 2001, though. It was 2002. And all the matches that we're going to talk about here were actually the matches that he did in Dublin. Not to the same extent, but a lot of them were. There were no cage match, but I did see a Black Wedding match in person, and it was...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was something else. And Bret Hart came out with the belt and all that kind of stuff. So even though we got a resolution, we also didn't, because then he went on tour and ignored most of this. So some background here. Now, the reason why I picked WWA was not because it's weird. That's only part of the reason. Is because I was watching Botchamania, and they were reading from Todd Gordon's book in ECW, and apparently WWA existed before ECW, which I didn't know. I just knew of WWA as this weird promotion out of Australia, which carried over WCW lads into TNA, right? So that was what I thought it was. No, apparently it existed beforehand, but this incarnation was established in 2001. This was the first. So there was a WWA. It disappeared for years, came back. This incarnation starts officially in 2001, and it's from Australia, right? Now, what's weird about this is it's a bizarre show, right? Half the lads at WWF, half the lads at WCW, they're still using their gimmicks from both, and neither
very questionably. Like, there's got to be some copyright issues here with some of this stuff.
I think this is why the DVD runs are actually hard to get, because I don't know who owns what. Like, and from this, there would be, like, if you're looking at the roster as well, like, the roster basically is a trumped up TNA roster in lots of ways, but it also has, like, the Road Dogg literally coming out as the Road Dogg, which is still bizarre.
To be fair, he does drop the second G, so he's just Road Dogg with one G. I don't know if that's like do you know the way Rhino used to be a Y and then an I, and then that got him around the copyright? So I don't know if Road Dogg dropping 1G got him around the copyright, but he still comes out to his old music.
He does, yeah,
and does his old, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
At least he's not wearing a DX gear. He's only half wearing DX gear.
Yeah, he's still wearing the like, you can still see it on the knee pads and all that. But yeah, he's wearing, is it a WWA t-shirt he's wearing?
Yeah, and I actually have that WWA t-shirt as well.
Oh, cool.
Because that was the tour t-shirt that they would sell. I mean, this brings back a lot of memories to me because this was my first like wrestling show. But I still think this is the most, because this is the DVD they were selling at the event, and then you go and you get it signed, and it's bizarre. I think JB signed it as well. I'm not too sure. I'll have to check the signature and I'll put it up on the social media. But look, again, this started around October 2001. So it was just after WCW and ECW were gone out of business and bought by the WWE. There was that void, and a lot of the lads were just like, let's go work. So this was established in Australia. I think maybe that's how they were able to like get away with it. I wouldn't shock me if that's how they did it. But yeah, so look, where do you want to start with this?
Well, I mean, that's so there's a couple of dark matches in that, but I think we can skip over them. The first match is Juventud Guerrero versus Psychosis.
One second. Before we get into that, can I just say, this has my favorite thing one of my favorite things and one of the things that I hate most. And I can't decide which one it is, right? So JB is on commentary with King. King had been fired from the WWE because he wanted to stick up for the cat. He was married to the cat at the time, and this is why Paul Heyman took his spot at WrestleMania and why Paul Heyman was doing commentary in WWE, right? So this is why King is there. But they're doing commentary, but it's also being piped over the PA system, and they did this live as well.
That's what I wanted to ask. Yeah, it sounds there's almost imperceptible echo to all the commentary. So is that what it is? That's actually you're watching that live, and King's there making all his weird homophobic jokes.
Yeah. I mean, this is what they. I'm for the record. The method of it being delivered is my favorite thing, not the content of King's content. Just so we're clear. But I mean, no, they did this at the live shows as well. They'd have two lads, and I think it was JB and someone else doing commentary, and it was piped over the PA system. So obviously, this is what they do.
What's that like at a live show?
It's amazing. It's like, yeah, I mean, they should do it. Like, I know why they don't do it, because it sounds like this and it sounds weird, but it actually.
Surely a big company like WWE could find some way of separating the audios.
No, because I don't think you can, because at the same time, like, yeah, you could, but then it would still be there. That weird echo would still be there. And I think WWE probably did try this in the past, and they're like, we're never doing that again. But they did it so early on that it's looped back around to being revolutionary. But I mean, this is the one thing about wrestling shows live that I hate. That you're just sitting there, and I know the atmosphere is great, and you're around people, but not having commentary that you can listen to really takes so much away from it. So that's what that weird echo is, man. That's the actual commentary going out over the house speakers as well.
In terms of production, the show is not terrible. They've got a pretty respectable 8,500 people there, although I think the arena is set up for much more. So there is, depending on the camera angles, there's an awful lot of empty seats and that around the place. But it's not the worst production in the world. There's definitely some stuff that they need to iron out. I said need to iron out as if they're still going. Like some of the camera angles and that, the cuts came at the wrong time and they tended to miss a lot of stuff. But that's like, see, stuff like that only comes with experience. Because like you see, even in AEW's first couple of years, they were missing stuff with camera angles. They were having production issues. They were having, maybe sometimes cutting to the back and the wrong sound going out. Maybe the audio from the front going out. And so like, I wouldn't necessarily knock them down an awful lot of points for that kind of stuff, because that's that's just teething problems for any kind of major production.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the thing about it is, if they kept going, well, I mean, look, I mean, there's two ways you can look at it: either ifs or what actually happened. They did actually keep going. It became TNA wrestling, and they went back to a much more traditional setting where they didn't have commentary being piped out, and the arenas were a bit smaller and that. But I kind of like this setup because it's so bizarre and weird. It's like when we were going back and looking at WCW, it feels like they were kind of onto something, and they removed some of the excess and brought it back to its like purer form, and that's kind of what they did here. This really looks like a really decent 2001, early 2001 pay-per-view in lots of ways, but then at the same time it also is quite cheap. The ring doesn't look great. They haven't gone mad with like graphics or setup. They're using the like, obviously, like it looks like a lot of this place was papered as well. But they went back to basics and just focused on having decent to good matches, or bringing in guys who they thought could have decent matches. So that's what we have, the opener being Psychosis and Juventud Guerrera.
And a kind of a weird one because it's a ladder match,
Yes.
not just for the WWA International Cruiserweight title, but it's also a quarter-final tournament match for the world title at the end of the night.
So pretty much every match on this is to set up this tournament that they're having. So it's a one-night tournament for the vacant WWA World Heavyweight Championship.
Do you know who was the champion before the title was vacated?
I'm going to guess it's Jeff Jarrett. Was it Jeff Jarrett?
It was not Jeff Jarrett.
Who was it?
It was the Road Dogg, Jesse James.
Oh, of course. He was the
man
first
who came
champion.
within
Yes.
3 seconds.
Just
of
3
beating
seconds.
The Rock for the WWF World title. Just missed out and could never let it go, and knew if he just believed in himself, he could win a world title one day. And he did. He was the WWA champion.
Oh, man. You know what? I knew that. If you had said who was the first champion, I would have said Road Dogg. But it's funny because I think that's the only time he would win. And when I saw him in Dublin later on, he would actually reference that, but then he would lose to Jeff Jarrett. Yeah, man. I mean, like, okay, so Road Dogg, Jeff Jarrett, Nathan Jones, Scott Steiner, Vacant wins it twice, Lex Luger, Sting, and Jeff Jarrett. And then it was unified. We don't know what it was unified.
It was unified.
The NWA.
NWA, yeah. Because apparently before their very last pay-per-view, they pretty much knew they were closing. So they unified their titles with NWA. And
then Jeff Jarrett would have it and defend it in TNA at the time. Okay, so look, what did you think of this match from the get-go? Like, it was good. I thought it was a decent match, not the best match in the world, but definitely kind of going along with the standard, which was a cruiserweight match to open things up.
Yeah, absolutely decent. Like I say, Psychosis and Juventud, like, you're never going to go far wrong. A couple of really cool high spots on it. A couple of cool things with the ladder and with tables. Not the best match in the world, but to be honest, when you suggested this, I thought this was going to be one of those things that it's like, oh, Martin, you should go watch this, and then I sit down and it's terrible, and it's we rip it apart. So I was surprised when this match was pretty decent. The production was pretty decent. Everything was looking promising enough. Yeah, like I don't have a wealth of notes or anything. It was a pretty good early noughties cruiserweight ladder match. Like you say yourself, it was very, very WCW, which isn't a bad thing.
No, and Juventud won. I think that was the right decision. But there's a couple of points here I want to make on the production side of it, because I have to. I really like the little logo. I think the little logo is lovely. It's one of the most tasteful logos that they have. And honestly, WWA should have just kept the name instead of going with TNA. But you can't really chant WWA quite well. So, maybe that's why they kept it. I didn't know.
Dub-A, I suppose.
Dub-A, yeah.
Then that'll just confuse the Canadians when you go there. It's Dub-A, Dub-A.
So I noticed that there was a fun sign, and it literally said, "I don't like signs." we got like probably one of the last hangovers to basically the Nitro Girls who aren't the Nitro Girls. They just had a little dance.
The Starettes.
It's the Starettes. That's true.
The
That's
Starettes. Yeah. A couple of
so-
the names on this thing, like for the different tag teams and for like the names of some of the pay-per-views and stuff, I'm like, lads, if he's had to just sat down for 5 minutes, he's got to come up with something.
They were trying not to get sued. They did their best.
But I mean, that only goes so far. Later on in the show, when we get Gangrel and he's called Vampire Warrior, I'm like, lads, make an effort.
I can explain why that happened. Put a pin in that. We'll loop back around. We'll loop back around to that one. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the production, it looks like Raw with WCW kind of pasted onto it awkwardly. That's what it kind of feels like. Now, I don't think that's bad. It's just kind of jarring. Like, it is very, very jarring. It looks like a low rent Raw, but like a high rent WCW.
It definitely doesn't feel like a pay-per-view.
It kind of does.
It could definitely pass for maybe 90s, like you say, Raw or Nitro, but it just doesn't feel like a pay-per-view, you know, especially when most of the matches go between 4 and 6 minutes.
The worst part about the show is that Nathan Jones is back.
Yeah.
So we get a backstage segment after the Starettes where this limo shows up. And who gets out? Nathan Jones.
Not just Nathan Jones, but Rove McManus, who I had no idea.
Owner. He's the owner.
Is he?
Yeah.
See, I looked him up and it just gave a list of like a comedian, actor, and I thought, all right, he must be a big deal in Australia.
Yeah. There's a reason for that. He's the owner of WWA.
Right, okay.
And the sad thing about it is, it's like, okay, I don't want to harp on this too much, but you know my like jadedness when it comes to like Tony Khan.
Yes.
This is where it comes from. It comes from, I've seen so many owners of wrestling, you know, Wrestlicious, TNA to an extent. And I'm like, okay, we'll see how long this lasts. And I think that's why, you know, it's just like there's nothing new under the sun. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Know what they should do? They should have a WWA staple show up in AEW with your man. And then him and Tony could feud.
They absolutely should not. And if anyone from AEW is listening to this podcast, disregard that comment immediately. Rove does show up, but he's not the only one who shows up.
No.
He walks past one Disco Inferno who declares that he has so many fans that he's being mobbed everywhere he goes, he says, as he stands alone in an empty hallway. And he finds like a production guy and he whips a ball of cash out of I don't really know out of where, because he's wearing like a jacket with nothing underneath it, so I don't know if he just keeps his cash lodged under one of his pecs.
He might have a little pocket in there.
And he could have, yeah, we surgical slip.
Yeah.
And he sets off what will be, for some reason, a pay-per-view long angle where he says to this guy, I need some protection. Take this money and get me 2 suits. Like, suits, I assume, is vernacular.
Bodyguards.
For bodyguards.
Yeah.
So this couldn't possibly lead to any kind of, you know, misunderstanding or confusion when you're, you know, giving people vague instructions using vernaculars from a different country.
But it would lead to our next match, Conan, who would be defeated by the Road Dogg in a dog collar match in another quarterfinal for the World Heavyweight title. Now here's the thing, Conan and Road Dogg would become a tag team in TNA very soon after this. They would not, it would be like just before Voodoo Kin Mafia, before Q-Kip would come over. Sorry, the names that they chose are just so bad. Yeah, so this would be the first time that like Conan would come out and cut a promo, and he's still doing his WCW gimmick. And I think the thing that shocked me most was the fact that he's when Road Dogg comes out, he's being the Road Dogg. He's
fully,
coming out
like
fully.
literally nothing is different.
He's coming out to the same music. He's wearing the gear. He's the Road Dogg with 1G, as Martin correctly said. He's doing the water and that. But the thing about it is, all the signs still call him Road Dogg with 2Gs. So I don't know, and I don't know if you caught this or not, but on the T-shirt, right? So as I said, I own this T-shirt. It's somewhere in my wardrobe, right? All the wrestlers are just, it's stills from the wrestling companies that they're in beforehand. Bret Hart, that's a WCW picture. Buff Bagwell, WCW picture. Bret Hart is
I
holding
thought some of them looked really familiar.
the US title from WCW.
No.
Road Dogg is, yes. Road Dogg is literally wearing the DX shirt, like the awesome DX hockey jersey.
So Rove McManus full on went, just go on Google and download them. We're in Australia. What are they going to do?
I think that's what happened. Honest to God, I think that's what happened.
Why don't you swim over here and arrest me, McMahon?
Well, I mean, the thing of it is, like, everything on that shirt is owned by Vince McMahon. That's right. Everything.
Everything. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're printed on like just plain T-shirts that they whipped out of his closet.
Well, look, it's just hilarious. I just don't. I mean, look, folks, if you have anyone from Australia listening, please explain to us how the law works over there, or how this was allowed.
And apologies for the accent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I you see, you're a braver man than I am. I wasn't going to do that, so fair play. But
I get about 4 or 5 seconds out of a half decent Australian accent before it descends into kind of a Cockney English thing.
Well, look, I mean, I think it was serviceable enough there to explain what's going on.
Good enough for an X-Pac Euro.
Absolutely, send us an X-Pac Euro. By the way, I was listening to X-Pac's theme music the other day. Again, just because it's great. X-Pac makes more sense than Make Some Noise. Even though I know that's what he's saying, it makes less sense every time I hear it. But then his promos that he would say make more sense now that I know what he's saying.
He's just, I think the problem there is you're taking X-Pacs and you're trying to attribute sense to any of it. And I think that's where you're going wrong.
No, I mean, like, just saying X-Pac, because his music is like kind of it's a remix or a retake on the DX music, because it's basically the exact same thing, just with a bit more spice to it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's wrestling. Like, you need something identifiable.
But why did he say Make Some Noise? They were already screaming because it's DX.
It's mad that was such a catchphrase of his. And like you say, when you go back and watch his promos, you see it all the time. You start to notice it then. But up until we kind of
lifted the veil,
stumbled upon the fact that he said Make Some Noise, I never would have associated that. Like, if I'd been in a wrestling quiz and it was, which wrestler's catchphrase was make some noise, I'd be like, a doink? I don't know. I don't know.
Jeff Hardy?
The Boston Brawler? Who says make some noise? I have no idea.
Oh, man. But yeah, no, we did see the worst belt shot in history in this match, where Conan just lazily hits him with the belt, which I don't, did you catch what belt it was for? Some reason Conan has a belt?
No, yeah, I didn't know what it was, but do you know?
Know what it could be? It could be a Mexican belt, maybe.
Well,
the Indies in Mexico.
Yeah, he maintained his kind of links with different Mexican promotions and that.
AAA, maybe. Could be AAA.
Yeah, even when he was in American or Australian companies, whatever. But one thing I noticed throughout the night was, like, a lot of the guys, a lot of the wrestlers out there look like they're having a lot of fun. A lot of them are not taking the show particularly seriously, and a lot of the moves, the punches, the slams, and that they're going very easy. There's a lot that's not connecting. There's a lot that doesn't look like it has a whole load of impact. I think these guys saw this new company and thought, it's probably not going to last. It's a payday. I'm not getting hurt over it.
Ah, yes. The term that we like to that is used for this kind of situation is money mark, and I think they knew what was going on here. But the thing about it is, even with that mindset, right, it's still a decent enough show. I think it's just a bizarre time capsule because everyone really wants it to be WWE, and it's not. But it kind of is if you squint hard enough. And I think that's why it's so weird.
If you squint hard enough and you don't listen, because before, like literally before every match, every single wrestler has a promo. This show is 2 hours long. There is about 40 minutes of wrestling on it. And every single promo is about WCW or WWF. Bret Hart comes out at the start and lays into both of them.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
He hates WCW and he hates WWF and he hates that piece of crap Vince McMahon. And he's like, I'm proud to be here at a company with some integrity, he says, sounding like a man who's just the most bored man who has ever lived. Like, his heart is not in this in the least.
And, I also enjoy that, like, Road Dogg is still doing the DX, like, shtick throughout the match. He's throwing up the X fists and he's doing the suck it chants. And
he's fully,
It's like, surely this is going to make your transition a lot more difficult going forward by still wrestling like the Road Dogg. I just don't. But then again, at the same time, everyone is cheering for him. If you squint hard enough, it still looks like Raw. Maybe that's what they did. They're like, look, we're not going to bother changing things up.
But you also have to remember, this is in Australia. So generally outside of the US, fans don't get to see these guys a lot. So they are going to be, more forgiving, and you are going to get like better reaction. Because how many times have we been watching a TNA pay-per-view where ex-WWF or WCW guys will come out and do the shtick that they were doing beforehand, and the crowd will start chanting same old crap,
yeah.
So I think maybe they got a wee bit of a leeway here because it was a non-American audience. The other thing I thought was hilarious, and I'm the biggest Bret Hart fan in the world, I'm all about the Hitman, but I don't know if it was just his general malaise with wrestling as a whole at this stage, but so he's obviously sent out there to start the show and introduce the belt and hype up the crowd. And Rove McManus was backstage going, all right, Britt, you're going to go out there and you need to get to the audience wild. You need to hype them up for the show, for the first match. You've got to get them all going mad and really lift the spirits. And Bret goes out and starts talking about 9/11. What are you doing, man? What are you doing?
Oh man, what a mess!
But yeah, by no means a terrible. And I'm not going to rip it apart, but it is a very bizarre, very funny, ultimately entertaining show.
So look, the next match I think is the most WCW of the show. It's Crowbar, or what did he call him? Devon Storm.
Devon Storm, yeah. Devon
Storm, otherwise known as Crowbar, in there with Norman Smiley. Now look, I like Norman Smiley, and I shouldn't, because Norman Smiley is terrible, and the damage he did to the hardcore division in WCW is substantial. But I still really like Norman Smiley. So to see him in there having a silly match with Devon Storm is just, this is the dregs of WCW being broadcast, been not only broadcast back to the US and the UK, but been exported to Australia for people to experience. So I mean, even though we're saying they're taking off the WWE kind of stuff, they also at the same time exported the worst of WCW. Now what's funny about this is, for me, this is kind of like the filter. Do you ever get like coffee on like an Aer Lingus flight where they have that weird like filter thing where they just pack it full of coffee and the coffee brews and then the filters through this weird thing and you drink the filter? Do you ever have that? No,
see, I don't really drink tea or coffee. But I did get a whiskey in a plastic bag on a Ryanair flight. Like literally comes in like a wee plastic baggie. That was weird.
That I have no explanation for that. But the first one I do, right, it basically brews the coffee in the cup, and it's actually pretty cool. But the filter blocks out all, so you're not drinking coffee grounds. And that's what this is. That's what WWA is. It's the filter from like the worst of WCW.
Just the filter.
Just a filter. So
Not
we're
the coffee.
No, this is just a filter. So we're actually watching the filter that would take everything either to WWE, to Ring of Honor, or TNA, and then all the garbage is left. And Norman Smiley, unfortunately, very much is, along with Evan Storm, is the garbage.
Yeah, like, okay, so the first thing I'll say is that at least this made sense, because in the previous match, Conan and Road Dogg, which was a dog collar match,
Yes.
Conan whips out a crowbar and is like hiding it from the ref, and then pops Road Dogg with it, and then shoves the crowbar down his trousers. And I'm like, it's a dog collar match. It's no DQ. Why are you hiding from the ref? So at least in this match, it was openly hardcore and they battered each other.
They did. We even got some blood and everything.
We got some blood. It was 9 or 10 minutes long. I mean, one of the issues I had with the WCW hardcore division was that they would go out there and they would have these sort of plundery matches, which are fun for a wee while, but they would go on for like 15 minutes with them. And I think 5 to 10 is as long as these need to be. This was not terrible.
No, it wasn't. It was very serviceable. It's just at no point. Sorry, some of the signs are pretty funny. They're not as mean as the US ones would be, but they are pretty funny when you're not expecting to see them. Yeah, I mean, look, it was what it was. It was okay.
There was
There
was a great bit. Now, this match really suffered from, I was talking earlier about a lot of the hits not really hitting and a lot of the slams being very light. This match suffered from that, but there was
except the finish. The finish was really good.
Finish was awesome. And you know what? So for anyone who hasn't seen it, the finish is they're up on the stage and they've managed to stack 2 tables on top of one another. And then, really impressively, Crowbar lifts Norman Smiley up onto the second table, like the top table, which
I've never seen that before.
Well, probably the reason you haven't seen it before is I don't know if the Australian tables are sturdier, but if you tried that on the tables that they use in American wrestling, like they would have just collapsed the minute you attempted it.
Yeah.
But he lifts him up on the top table, climbs up on the stage set, like up on the screen, and really impressive, like dive off it. But during the match, at one stage, they're fighting on the stage, where the wrestlers come out at the entrance ramp, and JB's going, "Oh my God, they must be 8 feet in the air!" And then the next thing, Conan steps off the stage. You're like, well, if they're 8 feet in the air, Conan is 16 feet tall. Because he steps off the stage, and it's not even up to like his armpit.
My question here is, as impressive as that last spot was, Norman Smiley still wins.
Was this? I tried to find this. Was this a botch, or was he meant to roll off the table or something?
I don't know, because what happens is, like, the spot's great, and you're like, right, Norman Smiley's he's finished, and then he puts his hand over him and scores the pinfall.
Yeah, so Crowbar dives off the ring, or not the ring, the stage ramp. Yeah, dives off through the 2 tables, absolutely flattens Smiley.
Yeah, should have went for the pin. I'm watching the replay here, and then just doesn't.
And then Smiley just sort of rolls over, puts his arm over Crowbar, and wins. It was the most bizarre finish.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this, and it does kind of look like a botch. Maybe Norman was supposed to move, but surely, I don't know. It just makes no sense to me. I mean, Norman Smiley is killed.
How would you then, like, so let's say he was supposed to move, how would you roll off 2 tables balanced on top of each other, without accidentally knocking one of the tables over? Or it was a terribly booked finish, which, like you say, is a shame, because it was a pretty cool spot, like, final spot. Yeah.
So from there, we have a return back to the Disco Inferno, who was presented with 2 suits.
Show long angle, boy. You wanted show long angles.
Here we go. So who are the 2 suits?
It's not suits. It's 2 fruits. I thought you said fruits. So the production guy literally presents him with the bananas and pajamas.
Yes.
Or because like we've had a couple of discussions about copyright, so I looked this up to see did they have the rights to bananas and pajamas, or is Australia still just a prison colony where there are no rules? It turns out that Australia has its own satirical take on the bananas and pajamas.
They do not.
The fruits and suits.
They do not. Oh my God.
It's an actual thing. So it wasn't just like they said, "Oh God, lads, do you know what's really hot right now? Is the bananas and pajamas. Go out and get us 2 bananas and pajamas suits." No, apparently this is like a thing. The fruits in suits are like an Australian, or were an Australian kind of satirical version of the bananas and pajamas.
So look, on that note, guys, on that knowledge, we're going to have to take a break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the rest of this show, go the full 90 minutes and talk about In Your House number 7 as well. Look, you can't say you don't learn anything on this show.
There you go.
I didn't know that. That's wild. But folks, thank you so much for listening here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. We will be back next week for a Christmas special. And again, if this is your first time checking us out, go over to Near to Know Media, go over to WrestlingRewind.com or the True Penny channel, where you can get all the shows. They're on Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff as well. Martin, is there anything you want to plug before we take this break?
Tune in to Nerd to Know Media to listen to the rest of the show, because there's one of the matches we literally can't even say the name of on Phoenix.
We cannot.
And also, get well soon, Kenny Omega. The cleaner, boy, the cleaner.
Absolutely, folks. We'll be back after this break here on neartoknowmedia.com and the WrestlingRewind.com. We'll be back next week here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. See you then. You have nothing else to do on a Saturday? Do you like nerd things? Now check out Nerd to Know Basis here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then head over to nerdtoknowmedia.com for all of our shows as part of the Nerd to Know Media radio network.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
Alright, everybody. That was a botch. That was a fucking Sin Cara botch. You were watching with some Sin Cara, weren't you?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I saw some of that.
Okay.
The different variations and the I was actually really impressed when he would jump into the ring, until I found out that there's a wee trampoline there.
And that they always recorded it twice.
Yeah.
Alright, here we go. Hi folks, welcome back to the Wrestling Rewind here on Phoenix 92.5 FM post-show After Dark, where we can actually say the name of the show. I actually didn't even think about the name of the match, rather. I didn't even think about that the Jeff Hardy match is not, sorry, the Jeff Jarrett match. What am I saying, Jeff Hardy?
The Buff Bagwell match.
Was it a Buff Bagwell match? Yeah, with Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, the Buff Bagwell match is
Hits,
called
whips, and Buff.
Yeah, this show did not know what it wanted to be. Are we going to go full Attitude Era? Let's have a match called Tits, or are we, early 90s WCW? Let's get the bananas and pajamas on the show. This thing did not know what it wanted to be.
As I said, man, we are watching The Filter. That's it. We're watching the filter in the coffee. We're not the water. We're not the coffee. We're watching the filter. So we move on from the bananas in the pajamas or the fruits and suits, which, I mean, holy hell. It actually explains why the masks are so creepy. But
yeah, and it explains why, so this fruits and suits angle, even angle is too grandiose a term, it goes on for the
nonsense.
whole show.
It's nonsense.
Fiasco.
Fiasco.
It goes on for the whole show. And I kept waiting for at the end for them to whip off the banana head or the banana suit, and it to be, I don't know, some wrestler, Goldberg or something. But no, just somebody. But no, it that's literally who they are. They're just the fruits and suits.
Oh, so silly. So speaking of silly, our next match is an open invitational battle royale with Buff Bagwell coming out to set the whole thing up, and it's still a part of this World Championship tournament. It's a quarterfinal.
Yeah, an open.
I don't understand how that even works. Like, it's a quarterfinal. That's a battle royale. That's an open invitational.
So before this match even starts, there's an interview backstage with Commissioner Bret Hart, and he says, "I want this. You know, the title is vacant, so it really should be up for anybody to have a go at it. So this battle royale is open to anybody." And the interviewer goes, "Anybody? Like, who do you mean anybody?" And he goes like, "I don't care. The people selling T-shirts, the referees, the merch girls, like." Whoever wants to do it can do it. And the interviewer goes, like, "Can interviewers do it?" And he goes, "I don't care. Whoever wants to get in that ring can get in it." And the interviewer goes running off. So this battle royale is bizarre.
I have to say though, like, JB's in it, which is fun. The King is in it, so there's no commentary for a little while because they go in and do it. And then like, at one point, Devon's Storm does commentary.
He hops on.
And I remember he cleaned himself up quite well from all that blood that was over him like 10 minutes ago. But
actually, like, this is a dreadful idea, but it's quite fun to. This was kind of fun. This battle.
Yeah, I actually really liked it. I don't think it's a dreadful idea. I don't know. Maybe if it was worked a little bit better, it could be fun. But like
maybe as something other than
the world
qualifying match for your world title.
Yeah. I mean, to put this into perspective, it's kind of like if the Royal Rumble is a complete joke.
Yeah.
That's what this kind of was. But again,
you know the way the Royal Rumble, they usually have like one person in there who is a bit of a joke. You know, they'll have Drew Carey or, you know, whoever hop in. It's like that, except if it was mostly that.
Well, your last two are Disco Inferno and Buff Bagwell. And Disco was eliminated by the Fruits and Suits.
They betrayed him.
They did.
Disco's out doing his thing, doing his disco moves, looking like he's going to win the thing. And the next thing, the Fruits and Suits slide into the ring and eliminate him. Which again is why I was sitting there going, "Oh, I bet you they're going to whip the masks off now, and it's going to be
AJ Styles.
A couple of big signings, or a couple of apparently AJ Styles was with WWE.
He was. That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't make sense.
Well, just somebody, but not, you know, Australia's premier satirical take on the Bananas and Pajamas.
Which I thought was satirical anyway, but I don't know.
So that's how this ends. But actually, throughout this match, there's a load of daft stuff in it. Like the referees get involved. Like you say, JB and Jerry Lawler jump in the ring.
The backstage interviewer in the gold dress.
Interviewers. Then you start getting some of the starettes and the interviewer in the gold dress getting in, and that's fine until she gets into the ring and comes face to face with Jerry Lawler, who goes full on Pepe Le Pew. She jumps on his back and he like throws her on the ground, and while she's laying down, he looks down at her and basically just jumps up, not in a wrestling move. It's a vertical missionary position splash where he starts trying to shift her, and she starts screaming and slapping him, and jumps up and sort of runs off, and then he's crawling around the ring after. It's full on Pepe Le Pew. And then to get out of the ring away from him, she climbs over the ropes. So she's gone over the top rope, because that would be your concern in a potential sexual assault. You'd be like, well, I want to make sure I'm eliminated. I don't want to wake up in 10 years and still technically be in the open invitational battle royale.
With Jerry the King Lawler. I have to say about it, I mean, he really has done some abhorrent stuff.
Look, it's the early noughties. It's 2001. This shit
I know,
would not fly now.
Rightly so. I mean, like, here's the thing. Imagine if in character Mark Madden had been there.
Oh my God, he'd just been losing his mind. Because this isn't even like the cheeky, like, so do you remember a couple of years ago, Ric Flair kissed Becky Lynch?
Yes.
And I didn't even think it was that bad, because it was part of the, like, character and part of the show where she swung for Charlotte, I think, and missed, and Flair just grabbed her and kissed. It was like a distraction thing or whatever. And the two of them were stood up, and they were separate, and it was more on the jaunty, cheeky, funny end of the spectrum. Whereas this is your woman's laying prone on the ground, and Lawler full on fish flops on top of her. Like,
he's like, this is my chance.
This is happening. 8,500 people, you can be part of it or you can look away, but this is happening.
Oh man! So speaking of this is happening, they kept trying to make Nathan Jones happen. Even WWE tried with Nathan Jones, and it never worked. But for some reason, he became a world champion in this company as well. So we have a backstage interview.
Did he actually win the title?
He won the title, yeah. At one
Even
point,
after this match.
Even after this match, WWE signed him for a match with Taker after this match, man.
McMahon was so blind to size. Like, if you were big, he could not give a shit if you could wrestle or not. If you were big, like, he'd hire you. This, like, I don't know how you could look at this match and go, bang, get your man on a plane.
Did you watch the show with the fruits and suits? Yeah, that one. I want the big guy. So we have a guitar on a pole match up next. And this is our first, this is our last quarterfinal match. Our first appearance of Jeff Jarrett of the night. So we have Jeff Jarrett defeating Nathan Jones on a guitar and a pole match. Now, I know what you're expecting. You're expecting the match to be meh. You're expecting a guitar shot and you're expecting no one to draw. All of those things happened. Jeff Jarrett came out.
Don't worry, folks. Every one of them.
Don't worry. Everyone happened. So Jeff Jarrett's coming out wearing his WWF gear, also his WCW Slapnuts gear. They were kind of the same thing. He just wore a Slapnut shirt.
It is the full-on, like, it's the branded one, isn't it?
It's like, it's the Slapnuts one.
Unless he's managed to get like an exact replica with
one of the logos removed. He's literally wearing Slapnuts t-shirt.
Like, we're in Australia. Just don't give a shit. Just kinda...
Well, I mean, he probably had like all this gear in the wardrobe, and he's like, I gotta wear this. Like, you know, the company just shut down like 6 months ago. So I mean, it's still relatively
do you know
in the year.
If they're going this far, it's a wonder they didn't just go the whole hog. Do you remember, like when you were at home, like when you were younger, American wrestling would come, like your local town hall.
Yes.
It would be like
the Irish Rock
Taker and Kane, and they'd just be like the town hall janitor with a mask on and all. It's a wonder if they're going to do this why they just didn't go the whole hog and just have like some guy come out as the Undertaker, Hulk Hogan.
I think because it's earnest, you know, they're not trying to they're just like, look, we have all this gear. The company isn't established enough yet. There's no point of us going out to get like new ring gear made or come up with new characters. And we're in Australia, and nobody's ever going to watch this. And definitely there won't be a podcast in 20 years talking about it. I mean, you know.
And now that WWEF owns everything, like, really, we're only going to be on the indies. So we can wear our gear on the indies. Exactly.
Like, it's not that big of a deal. I don't think they foresaw this, you know. Nathan the Front Row Jones. What a weird name. It should be called Nathan Will Never Draw Jones. Apparently he was a big deal in Australia. I mean, he is impressive to see. He's like the big show who can't work. And it's great, like your man going off there, being his heater for him. It's all grand. The problem starts here is when that bell rings, and it's just
actually
terrible.
Just before the bell rings, Jeff Jarrett cuts a promo on him. And this would be something of a theme throughout the night, where he calls him a poofter. Haven't heard that one in a while. And very unusual to hear coming out of the mouth of a Yank.
Yeah, but I think it's because they're in Australia and he's learned he's learned the vernacular.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my god.
So yeah, this match is terrible. Also, a guitar and a pole match. You don't win when you get the guitar.
No.
So
You just get to use the guitar.
getting the guitar just means you now have a guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is another match.
It's atrocious. It's atrocious.
It's terrible.
It's such a bad match.
It goes 4 minutes. The only thing in it is that Rove McManus takes a pretty decent guitar shot.
He does.
Like, takes it full on square in the head, like properly bumps, goes down and does like a really decent front bump. You know, a lot of people, wrestlers, take a shot and then they bump. You know, they tend to do that real safe. Oh, down on your arm down and then roll back. And no, he takes a solid. Unless Jarrett just knocked him out.
Oh no, he properly wellied him like.
He absolutely laid into him.
I have to say, Jeff Jarrett's guitar shots can be kind of lame. Some of them are great. I think this is probably one of the best guitar shots he's ever done. Look, again, I'm going to pitch for it. Rove McManus in one corner, Tony Khan in another corner, managed by Dixie Carter at All In.
And again, if anyone from AEW is listening to this, immediately and completely disregard these don't even bring it up as a joke.
Don't even bring it up as a joke.
Don't even in a meeting. No, do you know to be funny, lads? No.
Battle of the Billion.
Don't even bring it up.
Come on, it'd be amazing. I'd pop huge. Come on. Jarrett
gets the guitar anyway and wins the guitar and a pole match.
Yeah, so he gets the guitar and hits a stroke, and it's weird, right? So he hits the stroke for no real reason. Like, it's not like, because okay, I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to do a distraction thing, but usually what would happen here is Nathan Jones would be so distraught by McManus being he's like, oh no, my mate. That doesn't happen because he doesn't sell anything. So he's just standing there and Jeff just grabs him and hits the stroke, and then mercifully the match is over. Yeah,
this is only 4 minutes long and
it feels like 15 minutes.
And it's still enough time to go, wow, that Nathan, what is it, Jones?
Yeah.
Not the guy. Like in 4 minutes in a bloody gimmick match with an actual really good wrestler.
Yeah.
He couldn't even get that over the line. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if we've pointed out that there are 10 matches in this card.
Really?
Every single one is a gimmick match. Literally every single one.
Well, I didn't put that together until just now.
I think the worst we ever covered was one of the latter WCW pay-per-views where they had like 10 matches and maybe 8 or 9 of them were gimmick matches. Every single one of these is a gimmick match.
So here's what, okay, I didn't actually piece that together until just now. Here's what's weird, right? At the end of the match, Nathan Jones lovingly picks up Rove McMahon, puts him on a shoulder like Miss Elizabeth, and walks out.
That is an accurate retelling of what happens.
It's a bit strange. I don't know what they were implying. I just hope they were happy. That's my hope.
I think one area where you should give a little bit of acknowledgement to Tony Khan, a little bit of leeway to Tony Khan, is that so far he has resisted the temptation to book himself.
I want to see him wrestle Rove McMahon at All In.
Every single promoter who's come along and started a promotion has booked themselves into it. And
that's true.
I think TK deserves credit for going, do you know what? I'm 5'8", I'm 70 kilos.
I'm not going to do this.
I do not belong in the ring.
This is a bad idea. It's always a bad idea. So here's what's interesting, right? So after this match, we now know that Buff Bagwell and Jeff Jarrett are going to face each other. However, Juvie and Psychosis, their match is question mark for some reason on the bracket. So we don't know who's going to face Road Dogg, despite the fact that we've already seen that Juvie and Psychosis match. So here's my question. Was this bracket from before it happened and this was a production mess up, or are they trying to like work the audience at this point?
Oh. Good question. See, it's actually hard to tell because
Isn't it?
the match that does happen instead
Is very different.
is but it's quite short. But then again, all the matches are short, so that wouldn't
And
necessarily.
it's a three-way as well.
Yeah, and the fact that it's short wouldn't necessarily imply that it was kind of off the cuff because they're all short. Do you know what? No, this is why this is so weird. I think this is intentional because at the very start of the show, when Rove McManus and Nathan Jones step out of a limo, Lodi and Lani are there. You know, so the camera, like, they make some wee funny comment about Nathan Jones.
Yes.
So the fact that they're, even though this whole thing is really weird and muddled and makes no sense, I think this was the plan. I think this was the booking.
Then why even bother having them wrestle for it?
I have absolutely no idea. But what happens anyway is Bret Hart comes out and he says, again, it's kind of unclear, but basically that Juventud is like unconscious or he's too banged up after his match to wrestle.
Right.
So now what was supposed to be, I don't know, I assume a tag match will now be Lodi and Lani versus the Road Dogg. But because Lodi and Lani are tag team, it's basically a handicap match, even though it's technically a three-way.
Yeah.
Basically a handicap match. Road Dogg just absolutely booking himself over tonight. He's going to win every match. He's going to win the handicap match.
He's winning everything.
Lodi and Lani, by the way. So this match is, again, it's a couple of minutes long. It's not terrible. Lodi and Lani, like, I'll get into their gimmick now in a minute. But Lodi and Lani,
I'm leaving this one up to you. This is
in the ring. So they're called the West Hollywood Blondes. In the ring, they're actually pretty good.
Oh yeah,
actually really good. And they've a really cool kind of high flying power dynamic. You know, like one of them, I can't remember who's Lodi and who's Lani, but one of them does a lot of like really cool athletic high flying stuff, and the other guy is more of the power move. Or in the vernacular of their gimmick, one of them is the twink and one of them is the bear. Because their whole gimmick is very late 90s, early 90s. Lol, gay guys. Oh, they're funny, they're so gay. And the whole way through the match, like, they're constantly ending up in positions where, you know, there's bums next to balls and balls next to chins, and they do a move where they stick Lani sitting up on the top turnbuckle and his legs are each side of the turnbuckle, and then Lodi comes over with Road Dogg and starts banging his head into the turnbuckle, and then from a certain angle it looks like he's getting a really aggressive blowjob. It's
a gimmick that would not fly
no
in modern times.
No, but the fact that the two guys are actually so good and they really commit themselves to it.
They do, like 100%.
They're not embarrassed. They're out there giving this socks. Yeah. They're like, right, if we're going to be too flamboyantly like homosexual stereotypes, we're going to be the best flamboyant homosexual stereotypes you've ever seen. And they give it to them. They
do. They absolutely do. And I mean, look, the match itself actually is not bad. It's actually grand. It's just
apart from the end,
it's just very full on. The end,
Road Dogg winning with that idiotic shake, rattle and roll knee drop.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think on one hand you could be like, okay, fair enough. He won with a lame move, or the lads had already beaten themselves at that point and they were in the 69 position. So, I mean,
yeah,
this is it.
We're not making jokes, by the way.
Up.
This is
what happens.
This is how on the nose.
Okay, hold on. Sorry, it's so on the nose that they come out wearing pigtails, sucking lollipops.
Oh yeah. There's
so
no
on the nose.
subtlety or nuance, but there's a a sequence in the middle of the match. I don't know how they contrived this. I'd actually have to go back and watch it again, where they're bouncing around the ring, the three of them's wrestling, whatever, and Road Dogg gets knocked out of the way. And however it ends up, Lani and Lodi end up just in a full-on doggy-style position. Just there. And like, it's as gratuitous as it can be with, out actual penetration.
It's a lot. It genuinely is a lot. But the thing of it is, I mean, that's their gimmick. And look, it was super over. Obviously, it was the early 90s, and this kind of stuff, flew.
There's actually, before the match starts, the fruits and suits are in the ring when Lodi and Lani come out, and Bret Hart comes out to say Juventude's injured, and he says, get those two fruits out of the ring. And Jerry Lawler goes, which ones? And you can see Hart having to cover his face because he can hear it because it's been broadcast over. You can see him having to cover his face laughing. And Bret's the only time he cracks a smile the whole show.
Oh my god, it's something else. It really is a relic. It's a relic of a bygone time, and I think that's why it's such a weird show. Everything about it is just bizarre. It's a bizarre show. So after that match, obviously the Road Dogg is the winner, and we have Jeff Jarrett coming out with another guitar to face Buff the Stuff in a tits, whips, and buff match. Now, pray tell, what are the rules of this tits, whips, and buff match, Martin?
Well, that pretty much says it all. There's tits, there's whips, there's buff, and there's Jeff Jarrett, who I think was ungenerously left out of the name of the match. It should have been the tits, whips, buff, and Double J match. But it's basically it's a lumberjack match in which, instead of wrestlers, the ring is surrounded by the Starettes and some other women who all have whips. So whenever you get knocked out of the ring, they sort of viciously whip you, or at least that was the idea. What ends up happening is that whenever Buff Bagwell gets knocked out of the ring, the girls all love him and they like help him up, and they're like massaging his shoulders and feeling his arms and helping him get back in the ring. And whenever Jeff Jarrett gets knocked out of the ring, they lay into him with the leather.
So how much of this was somebody's, like, it's like the way when people are watching what's it? Who directed Pulp Fiction?
Oh, Quentin Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino. Thank you. It's like when you're watching a Quentin Tarantino movie and you're like, there's lots of feet in that.
There's a lot. It's an unusual amount. I mean, I know everybody has feet, but I'm not used to seeing this.
Exactly. How much of this do you think was your man going, you know what I could do here?
I think a lot of the wrestlers on this show had the ear of your man Rove McManus.
I think so too. Yeah.
And we're doing a lot of their own booking. Like Road Dogg was coming out going, I should beat Conan, and then I should go out and have a handicap match, and I should win it. And then Buff Bagwell was coming out and going, you know what we should do is you should get all the sexy women in Sydney, and we should have a match where they just like love me and they're feeling me up, and like that'd be great. The crowd would love that.
The crowd would love
and then
that.
Jerry Lawler was coming out and going, do you know what people would love here, Rove McManus, is if we had a match where in front of several thousand women, several thousand witnesses, I could sexually assault a woman. Like that'd be great booking. Like the crowd would love that. So I think all these guys were just booking themselves.
Oh my god, it's so funny. It's so funny. I mean, it's not, but it also really, really is. It really, really is. It's so funny. And
it's a terrible match. But you know what? Like, it wouldn't be as funny if in between the silly bits, it was a good match. It's a terrible match.
Look, I mean, Buff Bagwell has never been someone who you're like, you know what? He's gonna carry the belt. He's gonna be the guy that we want.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean,
It's never that.
Didn't Vince famously
Yes.
take one look at him or give him one match?
One match.
And then
Buff Bagwell is, so for people that might not know, Buff Bagwell is solely responsible for WWE pulling the plug on ever bringing WCW back. It's Buff's
they were
fault.
going to get rid of SmackDown, weren't they? And have Nitro. It's going to be Raw and Nitro.
No, sorry, it was going to be Nitro on SmackDown.
Oh wow, they're going to get rid of Raw.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And Buff Bagwell, and who was it? Booker T, actually.
Yeah, but it wasn't Booker T's fault. It was Buff's fault.
I always thought that was kind of unfair on Bagwell because, look, like you say, he's no Kenny Omega and Get Well, the best bout machine. But he was never, like, there's been a lot of stinkers in WWF that people didn't get immediately fired for.
Yeah, but I mean, this was abhorrent.
Oh, this match was dreadful.
So if that match, like, I haven't seen that match in a while, we might do that as a Christmas treat. We'll see. But yeah, no, this was really bad. But I did like the fact that the girls, they really committed to the gimmick, where they were just like, all over Buff. But it was funny. It was funny, but bad. Jeff would eventually win, of course. I don't think, did this one involve a guitar? I don't think it did.
No, there's some sort of there was some sort of interference or the referee was distracted at the end.
That was it.
Because the girls were distracted. The girls were all over the referee then, and he got distracted. But again, and this was a theme throughout the night, it was a lumberjack match.
Yes.
There's no disqualification. You don't need to distract the ref to hit someone with a weapon. No,
they can just do it.
You just do it. Why did they keep doing these like ref bumps and hiding it? It happens in the last match, and it's a cage match.
I just think they have a style, and they're like, these are the spots we're going to hit. It doesn't matter what that means. That's what I think. That would be my ill-educated guess, but I do think I'm probably right on it. So Jeff wins, and that takes us one step closer to crowning our champion for the vacant WWA World Heavyweight title. The next match, and I said we'll come back to this, we have Gangrel going by the name The Vampire Warrior. Against
you have notes on this.
I have notes.
What was this about? So
the first thing is I actually witnessed this match in person. So they would actually do this on tour. Second, Luna and Gangrel were actually married in real life. Like, they were actually married.
I didn't know that, but that makes sense,
in real life,
doesn't it?
Yeah, in real life they were actually married. So they're an actual couple. And yeah, if you watch Gangrel talk about Luna, he gets like devastated. So, I mean, obviously they must have been, actually really, really close. So it sucks that kind of happened. But obviously Gangrel, is the best years are behind him, because the Brood kind of left him, and 1999 is further and further away as we go on. But Luna Vachon, again, still, she was kind of let go by WWE. So same with Gangrel at this point as well. But here's my notes on it. So Gangrel, if you ever noticed when you play a WWE game from this time, there would be a little logo underneath, like on the logo screen, with the rights, where WWE is property of Titan Towers, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
There would also be Gangrel is property of White Wolf Entertainment. So what you may not know, because I didn't know up until I actually played the game and really got into it. White Wolf Entertainment produced Vampire the Masquerade, which is a D&D style game, and also like the source material for one of the best games ever made, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which everyone should play. And Gangrel is a vampire type, right? So you could be a Gangrel, and that is like, so that's where the name comes from. Now,
that's kind of the way Yokozuna was called Yokozuna, even though Yokozuna isn't a name, it's a rank of sumo wrestler you can achieve.
Correct, but the difference is Yokozuna isn't trademarked by Japan.
True.
Yeah.
They probably should.
They probably should. Gangrel is literally made up and trademarked by White Wolf Entertainment. So every time WWE would use it on like a merch, on like a figure, on a video game, blah blah blah, they would have to pay and credit White Wolf Entertainment, right? So obviously, it's funny because I mean, since they're breaking trademarks, Gangrel here uses a vampire warrior, and I think that's actually what Gangrel means. So the name actually does make sense. It just sounds silly because they're not using the fancy name.
But
they're just using the actual name. Now, I know what you're going to say, but everyone else is breaking copyright. Why doesn't he? I think White Wolf have a further reach on copyright for certain things. Because, like, think about it. They were so good at copyright stuff, WWE had to give in to them.
yeah.
So I think that's what.
But not even that. Like, so what I don't get is, right? Why not? Like, Vampire Warrior is the most generic name you come up with. Why not be Bangrel, the Vampire Warrior, or even drop the Gangrel thing altogether and just come up with something else? Be Nosferatu, the Vampire Warrior. Just Vampire Warrior on its own just struck me as the kind of name you'd come up with in Creator Wrestler as a 5-year-old.
See, he really, really likes being a vampire.
Yeah, but be something, the Vampire Warrior.
No, I know. What you're saying makes sense. But he really, really likes being the vampire.
Yeah, I don't want to be anything. I don't want to be any variation. I don't want to be Joe the Vampire. I just want to be vampire.
Exactly. So it sounds so silly, and it is. And again, I mean, I think this is the same thing as Butt Punk. We could say Butt Gangrel.
But Gangrel wants to be a vampire.
He just wants to be a vampire.
It is non-negotiable.
It's non-negotiable. And I think that's,
I will do your show for free, but I must be referred to.
I will pay you to do the show
as the vampire.
But I must be a vampire at all times. And honestly, man, I can't find a better excuse for it other than that. I don't think there is one. I would love to know, because I mean, his Gangrel has never like changed his gimmick. He's never gone off and been anything else. He's always just been.
I actually saw him wrestle in Belfast last year, and he was Gangrel.
This is what I'm saying. He's never been anything else. He's never wanted to change his gimmick. He's never like changed it up. He's still Gangrel.
Do you know it's funny that thing you told me about White Wolf Entertainment? I didn't know that. Do you know all the Marvel movies you watch now?
Yes.
Do you know the only reason you can see them is because of WWF?
Really?
So in the late 80s, Marvel was basically going out of business.
It was, yeah.
They were like absolutely tanking. There was still like popular comics and that, but it wasn't selling, and it wasn't covering the costs the way it should. The only thing that kept Marvel afloat during that time period was they agreed a deal with WWF where Hogan could be called Hulk Hogan. And there was a copyright issue with the Hulk. So in order to call Hulk Hogan, now they didn't have a full copyright thing, but they agreed to pay Marvel a certain amount every year for the rights to call Hogan Hulk Hogan. And it was literally that money that kept Marvel afloat during that time period until they kind of got over that hump. They would have, like, they do an interview and all on it. I can't remember who it's with, but they basically say, yeah, we would have collapsed, we would have folded if it hadn't been for the WWF money.
No way. So here's the thing. So I have a bit more information on this. So it looks like Vampire Warrior was actually the name that he used in the Indies, and it was inspired by the Lost Boys. He actually teamed with Luna before everything else. So back in the 90s, back in like 1994.
Oh, cool. So before the Brood and everything.
Yeah, and he married Luna in a wedding to a vampire where Luna married him.
Man.
So this this segment
I'm not
here.
surprised at all. It completely strikes me as something those two people would do.
So this segment is a payoff for a gimmick that happened in WWF back in 1994. At what point was this? Like 8 years beforehand in a different company in Australia?
That's Long-term storytelling.
There we go.
This is a black wedding match.
It is a black wedding match. So, folks, you might be asking, what is exactly a black wedding match? Well, it's a hardcore match where that's and there are some there's like a cake and some presents and stuff, but it's weird. I mean, if like the one I saw was fairly similar to this, but a little bit better worked. I mean, this one was kind of like a story that Gangrel didn't actually want to fight Luna, and he freaks out when he has to hit her. So not really much happens in this match. This match is a story driven event for a pay-per-view for a company that has like 4 shows.
Yeah.
So I thought this was weird. This was a weird segment.
It's 5 minutes long, and an awful lot of the 5 minutes is faffing about. I don't want to hit you, blah blah blah. But then when he does, so Luna Vachon keeps attacking Gangrel. He keeps trying to like just shake her off or shrug her off or whatever, but she keeps going at him, and eventually he snaps. Now, he doesn't snap and go, all right, you want to fight, fine, and put her in a sleeper rating. He hoists her up for the most vicious even flow DDT you've ever seen. Like, he fires her about 6 feet in the air.
It's proper.
Drills her.
And I mean, I always thought Luna was a lot bigger because the way she'd lumber over the other girl. She's not. She is half of his size.
Do you know what though?
And it's like whoa! I never actually, because I mean, when you watch Luna in the Attitude Era, she is in there with the girls, and the girls will be smaller than her.
Yeah,
but Gangrel is a big dude, and he absolutely wellies her, and you're like, oh my god. So yeah,
there is a weird thing with sizes because, like in the 80s and 90s, Bret Hart was always considered like a smaller guy, one of the smaller guys, like sort of paved the way for smaller guys to break through. But see, at the end of the pay-per-view, and he gets in the ring with Jeff Jarrett, he's kind of looming over Jarrett.
Yeah, it's weird. It's. I think it's a matter of perspective, because when you're watching these in a vacuum, and they don't really interact. Like, I mean, Nathan Jones is obviously a bad example, but the Big Show, when you see him in person, he's big. He's huge. Like, he is genuinely huge. And you're like, oh my God. But when you see Randy Orton in person, you're like, damn, he looks weird. You know, his body is weird, particularly when he does the RKO. I mean, I've said this before, but when you see the RKO in person, you're like, that's a weird move. Randy Orton moves weirdly. But you never really see that on television. You know, it's just Randy Orton.
You even see it in AEW now with Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
Billy Gunn's bigger than 80% of the roster. Yeah. Like, significantly bigger.
Yeah, it's crazy. So obviously we got Gangrel winning, or the Vampire Warrior winning this black wedding match. There would be a few, and as I said,
White Wolf
Entertainment. We owe them money. How much do we owe them? But yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, it's like, I saw that match in person, and the match that I saw was significantly different than that. It was a bit more worked and, you know, a bit more gimmicky. We'd have the return of the Starettes to do a little dance before our next match, which would be the main event, because there was a dark match which we didn't get to see. It was a 4-way skin to win match, so I guess you can imagine what that was. Probably some kind of striptease match.
So I was on Wikipedia, and I was going, 4-way skin to win? What the hell is that? But Skin to Win had a blue hyperlink, so I was like, oh, it must be something. And then I clicked on it, and it's a brand panties match. It's the 4 women get in. I don't even know, Adara James, Sharon Awad, Queen Bee, Violet Tarosi, are any of those actual wrestlers? Do any of those names?
The names don't ring a bell, but if they probably use different names, we would know who they were.
None of them have blue hyperlinks or anything on Wikipedia. So I suspect they just got 4 hot women and told them get in the ring and rip each other's clothes off for 5 minutes. Probably
exactly what happened. So we get Disco Inferno coming out and cutting an inconsequential promo, which is ridiculous. The Fruits and Suits come out, and it's a big payoff for the angle. Bret Hart.
The show long angle.
The show angle's a proper payoff. For some reason, I mean, here's the thing. I don't know if they were showing these segments on the screens, right, for the live crowd. So there is a very high possibility people had no idea what was going on.
Yeah. Only half
I mean,
the story.
only half knew the story. They probably did this over a couple of nights. They might have even done it at different points in different parts. We don't know because I mean, this show wasn't live. It was like pre-taped, and not all of it was probably put together, and we're not seeing all of it. It could have been shot out of sequence.
Very choppily edited in some places as well.
It is. It's very choppily edited. So, yeah, Bret Hart then comes out and says, "Right, this is for the title." We have the Road Dogg coming out, and look.
Is this before the final showdown with Disco and the Fruits?
Yeah, so that happened first.
Yeah, so Disco is in the ring. He's given out about the Fruits, and the Fruits come down. So by this stage, the cage
is down.
Is down.
Yeah,
and I don't know how it happens, but somehow they contrive to have Disco and one of the Fruits on top of the cage, and he throws the fruit off the cage outside the ring through a table, and the fruit, I mean, just about clips the edge of the table. So like it must have been like a local wrestler or something who was had to be because it was a horrendous bump, and it also, I think that was also because the whole angle was so stupid. I think it was the booker's way of giving the people a big bump while also acknowledging that neither Road Dogg or Jeff Jarrett are going to come off the top of this cage.
Bret Hart then does come out because it like that choppy edit is kind of like a feature of this entire show. Bret Hart comes out and he sits so awkwardly close to JB that he might as well be in his lap. And it's bizarre.
You're in a West Hollywood Blondes.
It's so bizarre, and it's like, and he just looks like he does not want to be there. The belt, it's probably the worst belt in wrestling history as well. No shade to WWE, but I really hate the belt.
It's like one of those belts you see in pictures from like the 50s, 60s.
More like 1920 or like 1800 or something. It's like, and we have giant haystacks wrestling for the world title.
You know,
and
it's almost like the when they brought out the TNT belt, but it hadn't been finished yet.
No, man, it's worse. It's more. It's more belt. It's basically belt with a tiny bit of gold on it.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Literally. It's bizarre. I mean, there's a shot of it here. We'll put up on our social media, and it's just a big bunch of brown with like a Power Ranger morpher in the middle, and like two random bits of gold.
Yeah, it's not even like the faceplate of it. It's not even like detailed or etched or anything.
No, it's
WWA or anything on it. It's not.
I mean, like here's the thing, right? They could have went to Rhino and said, "Listen, buddy, will you bring the ECW title with you? We'll put a sticker over."
Yeah, because
he had it. He had it. He'd use it in TNA later on.
Yeah, it's not like they were opposed to doing that. Sure.
No, and Rhino, I don't even think Rhino was in WWE. But no, because he was in WWE. No, never mind. He actually had a job. Hold on, I'm gonna have a look at this. I'm gonna have a look at this list.
Jarrett walk around with like a Global Force sticker over the top of his TNA title for ages.
But I'm trying to see who on this list would actually have a title like hanging out at home. Okay, now Brian Christopher definitely didn't. Chris Sabin was there. Wild. Let's see, Guerrero was there for a while. I don't think he had a title. No, he didn't have a title at the time. Okay, you know what, Martin? This was slim pickings. None of these guys had a title hanging out at home.
What about one of Conan's Mexican titles?
You see, he actually... It's funny you mentioned it. The title that he hit Road Dogg with earlier on was a much more prestigious title. Scott Steiner probably had an old WCW title at home he could have used. Okay.
Or at least a large chain that he could have wrapped around it and glitzed the belt up a wee bit.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, Sabu was in this company as well. The first time I saw Sabu was in Dublin. That was class. Look, it was either Scott Steiner or Sting that might have a world title at home, because it definitely wasn't Low Key or Nathan Jones or Nova. They were really scraping the barrel here in lots of ways. But Chris Sabin and AJ Styles, that's crazy. Christopher Daniels too at the time. But okay, let's get into this. So the main event, Road Dogg would come out, and obviously he looks very, very fresh. So I think this match was either the next night or very much later on.
Yeah. Or the fact that both of his matches put together went about 7 minutes.
That's true. Well, he's wearing a very fetching WWA hat, which I would actually wear. And I wouldn't mind. The WWA shirt looks quite good. Like now, it does look like one of the the knockoff shirts that you buy outside of WWE shows. Like John's Army and all that kind of stuff. That's what it looks like. But it just kind of works. I mean, the weird pastiche of WWA merch just seems to. It has that air of like, this is knockoff, but not really, but still kind of a knockoff. I mean, because that's what the whole show represents. I've never seen a bit of merchandise represent a company so well as the T-shirt does.
Yeah, I'm actually looking it up here to see if there's anywhere you can get it.
Oh man, eBay has to have it. I have that shirt somewhere, and I will find it and drop a picture of it. But yeah, he comes out and cuts another promo and says he's going to be the first ever he was the first ever WWA champion of the world. Does his DX New Age Outlaw shtick again for the second time in the night, which is very, very funny. The cage, I have to say, Martin, it's like a lovely cage.
Decent looking cage.
It's like a top quality WWE cage that they have. So there was some kind of money, and I have to give them credit. Where they chose to actually spend the money really actually improved the show as a show. And I mean, I have to give them a
couple extra quid on the belt.
Yeah, you know what? I think it was. I think they're like, look, we can either get a good show or we can get a good belt. And they were probably like, yeah, look, we'll give them a terrible belt, but the show comes first. And I mean, it works. Like, yeah, the barriers look kind of crappy and that, but the actual cage itself, it's a very good looking cage. It's a great cage match aesthetic. The match itself, though, I mean,
I tell you what, before we get into the match itself, they'd have a couple of quid knocking about if they were still going now, because if you go on eBay, a 2002 WWA World Tour t-shirt pre-owned will cost you £70 sterling.
Really?
Yeah. There you go.
No, I see. I kind of don't want to sell my one. That's the thing. It has sentimental value.
You're not that hard up for 70 quid.
Well, no. I mean, that's probably what the belt cost them. 70 quid on eBay. So, God, here we go. Quick, we have this lying around. Look, the match itself, the only thing I really did hate about it was that you could see the cameramen at all times in the match. I think that really took away from it. But I do like the fact that they were cutting from outside to the inside in such a cool way that, like the way your man inside the cage shot it, it made you feel like you were actually like in the ring with them because you were. What they don't do is they don't have those cutouts that WWE have where they're able to put the camera through the cage, because I think this cage was pre-owned. It was on loan, so like, yeah, don't cut that cage.
Don't cut holes in our cage.
Don't cut holes in our cage, please. So I mean, that's the only kind of criticism I can really say from a production standpoint. The match itself,
and it's not even like you say really a criticism, because like these kind of things,
you learn
issues. You sort them out. Like WWF's first cage matches weren't like brilliantly produced.
No, and I mean, look, it makes a lot of sense. It's like, I think like some of these teething issues that we've kind of brought up, like the commentary, it adds to the show and it makes it look unique. I mean, I prefer watching a cage match like this because it gives it its own kind of look and its own like unique style. And again, there's a bit halfway through the match where they're up on top of the cage and it's a TNA shot. A lot of the stuff that he'd use here, they would bring back and like elaborate on during TNA. So I mean, look, they did figure it out. It's just weird to see a cameraman just hanging out in the cage. It's like, that's a bit dangerous. It's particularly if they start using weapons. But again, there was no danger that these lads were going to do anything mad. It's the safest, slowest cage match in the world. Jeff Jarrett wins, the handiest victory I think he's ever had.
Yeah. Even with the blade job, so Jeff Jarrett does a pretty good blade job. Like his face is covered in blood, but you're watching it going, from what?
Yeah,
which Which of these gentle embraces cut him open?
You were not hit by anything, and he's more bloody than Ric Flair at this point. I mean, I think a lot of Jeff Jarrett's gimmick is kind of like Ric Flairish, so it just kind of makes sense. But he wins a handy victory. They go for the Montreal screw job kind of thing where Road Dogg does the stuff. And it's 2001,
and this has already been overdone. Like, maybe part of the reason Brett was so grumpy
because he knew this was coming.
Because we're going to do the fucking Montreal finish again.
It's been done. It took 6 hours, but it's done. Oh God. Yeah. So look, Jeff Jarrett does win. He's your second champion in WWA, and the show ends, and everybody goes home happy. I mean, you get Bret Hart being Bret Hart, puts Jeff Jarrett in the sharpshooter, and he taps out for some reason. Bret Hart doesn't even take his hat off once.
No.
He's like, I'm going home here.
He's
and then
full on. Bags are packed. I am walking out of here to the airport.
And within a couple of months, they'd be in Dublin. I'd be there. In a couple of more months, they would be out of business, and we would have we'd have TNA and WWE as your two standard wrestling companies, and WWA would fade off into obscurity where people like us will dig it up forevermore.
Till we resurrected it.
So key people, Andrew McManus, sorry, I need to correct myself. Andrew McManus is the owner of WWA, but Jeremy Borash was the director and the director of talent.
Oh.
So the McManus family had a few and here's the thing, Andrew McManus, you know where all the money came from?
Oh, it's got to be some real, like, Blood Diamonds or something.
No, he was a concert promoter.
Oh, well, there you go. Well,
Blood
Diamonds. it's always whenever people have loads of money, it's always something dodgy. It's, see the way, like, Elon Musk likes to tell people, it's like, oh yeah, pull myself up with my bootstraps, and, like, never, kind of skips over the fact that his family owned literal diamond mines.
Yeah, that's true.
In Africa.
That's true. That's actually very, very true. But anyway,
I suppose that goes to show why some of the production was pretty decent.
Pretty decent, yeah, and why it actually looked quite well. I mean, for what it was, which is, again, like, it's such a lovely relic. I mean, I just think it's cute is the wrong word because it's lads killing each other in the ring, but I just appreciate how weird it is, but how earnest it is at the same time. Like, they went out to have a good show. The talent are like, look, we're getting paid either way. We're going to go super light. It's going to be fine. But they're still able to do it. I mean, the biggest problem with the show is Norman Smiley, Devon Storm, and Nathan Jones. I mean, you take those guys out, and it wasn't that bad.
And in the right circumstances, it can be fun. Just watching wrestlers just have a great time, just really enjoying themselves.
Yeah,
like the tits whips and Buff match is terrible, but see, every time Buff gets knocked out of the ring and rolls into the crowd of women and all,
he is having the best
smile on his the actual booking of that match probably called for him to bump out of the ring once, but every time, like, Jeff Jarrett sort of breezes past him, he takes a huge back bump and rolls out of the ring.
He's like, I gotta make the most out of this. But look, I just think it's if you haven't seen it, folks, you really should. I mean, look, it has some abhorrent stuff. There's a lot of slangs, a lot of slurs used. Some of it doesn't age well, a lot of it doesn't age well, but it is quite funny. It is quite unique in the way it presents itself. There's no, like, it's not in a mean sense. It's just kind of like, this is just Australia in 2000, and this is what gets over. And that's not an excuse,
but it kind of is. Like, that's what the early noughties were. Everyone was going around, saying gay this and gay that, and
exactly.
Like, it's just.
I mean, if it happened,
we can only apologize for what we were like.
Exactly, and again, we were like, 10, 11.
Yeah,
so,
So we don't need to take any personal
No. But I mean,
responsibility for it.
just a fair warning that there is a lot in it. It's not as bad. Look, if you're listening to this show, you're well used to it. You know what happens. But it's funny in a sense that it's tamer than what was on American television as far as like what they would say or what was in the audience or even what the talent would say at some points. So you're like, well, okay, they lean a bit hard in here and there, but at the other point, when you're watching Raw, Jerry King Lawler is laying into someone full on, or else you have Goldust there like trying to hump someone's leg. So it's all relative. But look, we're going to do. Martin, what do you want to go for in your house real quick, or will we leave it to next week?
Let me see. In your house, to be honest, there's only really 2 matches on In Your House that are of any consequence.
Okay,
we'll run through it really quickly.
We'll run through it really quickly. Because as I said, we did go 2 hours, so we're just gonna keep going. I just really like WWA. I think it's a fun show.
It absolutely is worth watching. Like if you go in with the right mindset, like bear in mind you're probably, unless you're like Dara with his signed DVD and his $1 million WWA t-shirt, you're probably going to be watching this on YouTube. So bear in mind we're talking about it being like surprisingly good production, that it's an early noughties pay-per-view on YouTube. It's not going to look anything like today, but it's very watchable. The show is bizarre. But the matches are all so short, it fully zips by. It's only 2 hours long.
And they're all gimmick shows, and they're all gimmick matches as well.
Wall-to-wall gimmick matches. And if nothing else, just the juxtaposition of jumping from the tits and whips to the bananas and pajamas to the skin match to the fruits and suits to Jerry Lawler assaulting a woman. It's just
and where else would you get for in the middle of a tournament for a world title a random battle royale?
Yeah,
nowhere.
Completely open people to the merch sellers and the.
I'm amazed nobody got out of their seats and jumped in from the crowd.
Yeah, nobody hopped the barricade, because they probably would have. Everyone was being that like loosey-goosey about the whole thing. They probably would have let them.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's the one time that legitimately they could have been like, well, you told us to.
Yeah.
That it would actually fly, you know?
Yeah, it would stand up in court.
Like, play the video back where he literally says it's open to everybody. I'm like, well, okay. Okay, well, look. All right, folks, we're going to have to end the show here. You're not going to believe what happened. Martin's power went out, and that was it. So we're going to end the show here and come back next week to talk about In Your House and a few other bits and pieces here on the WrestlingRewind.com. If this is your first time checking out the show, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We'd appreciate if you went over to nerdtoknowmedia.com, nerdtoknowmedia.com, or the True Penny channel. Check out other shows we had there. And of course, you can get all of the social media links and keep up to date with everything we're doing there as well. We also have a Patreon. Give us an X-Pac Euro. You know you want to. And we'll be back here next week on the Wrestling Rewind. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.